What's going on, Bottom Line viewers? It's Mitch of the Bottom Line View back with another episode of the top 100 players in the NFL for 2017. This is my opinion on who are the top 100 players in the NFL heading into the 2017 NFL season. The list was made using my knowledge of last year's play, stats, and advanced stats, while also looking ahead into next season and judging who really are the best players when they step foot on the field in week 1 of the 2017 season. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are on my top 100 list, and also let me know who I missed on the list and who you are really excited to see come on the top 100 players of 2017. This is episode number 3, number 60 to 41. Enjoy. Starting at number 60, I have the strong safety for the Seattle Seahawks. He started 12 games, had 85 tackles, 8 pass deflections, 2 interceptions, and 1 forced fumble. That is Kam Chancellor of the Seattle Seahawks. Kam Chancellor is a safety and a player that is unique amongst all the NFL players. He's probably the hardest hitting player in the entire NFL. I would put him right up there in the top 3 or 4 hardest hitting players in the NFL. He can make an impact whether he's on or off the field. As we've seen this with the Seattle Seahawks, their safety play really dictates how successful they are on defense, and Kam Chancellor is one of the bigger reasons why. The guy is phenomenal in the box against the run game. Of course, I already brought up how he makes so many big hits, but he's a sure tackler with 85 this past season. He can also play in coverage and is a little bit underrated in that facet of his game. He can take away a number of tight ends across the league one-on-one in man coverage. He can also play great zone coverage when he's asked to do so. Kam Chancellor is a feared player across the NFL and one of the more feared players in the entire league. Kam Chancellor will again be another top 5 safety in the NFL as I rank him here at number 5 amongst all safeties across the NFL in the 2016 and 2017 upcoming seasons. I have Kam Chancellor here at number 60. At number 59, I have David Bakhtiari, the left tackle of the Green Bay Packers. We watched Green Bay's offense really explode over the second half of the NFL season last year, and a huge reason was because of the play of their offensive line, and their best offensive lineman, in my opinion, last season was David Bakhtiari, and Pro Football Focus backs me up on that fact, ranking him as one of the best pass blocking tackles in the entire NFL. Bakhtiari allows Aaron Rodgers to have the time to throw. He's very young still at a fragile age for a left tackle, but he's really been good, and he's basically gotten better every single season he's played, with this past season being the best he's played yet. He ranks here as the offensive lineman number 7. I think he'll only have another great season next year. The guy rarely gave up a sack or a pressure in this past season for Green Bay, and I think he's a huge asset because when you have a top-tier quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, you need that left side, you need that blind side protected for Aaron Rodgers, and Bakhtiari is one of the best in the NFL at doing that. I have him here at number 59. At number 58, I have Gerald McCoy, one of the funniest, most comedic players in the entire NFL. If you've ever seen an interview or anything with Gerald McCoy involved, he's usually a pretty funny guy. And following in the footsteps of another funny defensive tackle in Tampa Bay, that was Warren Sapp, Gerald McCoy is in that same mold. He comes in here as the defensive lineman number 9 and 58 overall. He played 15 games last year at 34 tackles, 7 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. Now, I could talk about how comedic the guy is all day long and how entertaining he is off the field, but when he gets on the field and he steps on the field, not only is he a ferocious pass rusher, great against the run, but he is also proven to be the leader of the defense for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that's been absolutely huge. We saw a huge up in play for the Tampa Bay defense last season. I expect that to be very much the same next year with McCoy at the helm. That 4-3 defensive tackle that can basically do it all. He's a great pass rusher with 7 sacks, but he's very good against the run. So I think Gerald McCoy is again one of the best D tackles. He's basically been one of the best D tackles since he's been drafted. Very consistent player, always finding himself on the top 100, and 2017 is no exception. Gerald McCoy comes in at number 58. At number 57, I have DeMarco Murray, the running back for the Tennessee Titans. Last year was a little bit of a down year for DeMarco Murray. He went to Philadelphia expecting huge things, being paid with a big contract. Wasn't exactly the scheme that fit DeMarco Murray. This season, he goes to Tennessee, and it looks like the Dallas Cowboys running back that exploded for over 1,800 yards is back and is primed to have another very good season. DeMarco Murray comes in as the running back number 5 with over 1,200 yards, 4.4 yards per carry, 12 touchdowns, 53 catches, and 377 receiving yards. He played all 16 games, which is very rare for a running back. And every single time I watched him, also having him on a couple of my fantasy teams, he was dangerous because the guy was utilized for Tennessee and not only the run game, but the pass game. And he was their primary guy in the red zone. As much talk as people want to say, oh, Henry this and Henry that, for when they drafted Henry as the running back to replace DeMarco Murray, it was DeMarco Murray who was that number 1 playmaker and the centerpiece of that offense. And he continues to be one of my favorite runners in the NFL. I love his style. He's also a very tall running back, which makes him very hard to take down. He's very good after the catch. He's basically good in every single facet that you ask a running back to be. He has sure hands in the pass game. He can run people over. He can run past people. He can break tackles. DeMarco Murray is a great inside the tackle runner, and I think that's where he's best utilized in Tennessee's scheme. He'll continue to do that in 2017. He's not really even that old. A lot of people look at a couple of his injured seasons, but he hasn't had, too much on his tires. He really does have a few seasons left, or a couple at least, where he can be in the prime of his career. So I expect DeMarco Murray to have another very good season next year. At number 56, I have Marcus Peters, the cornerback for the Kansas City Chiefs, playing 15 games, having 45 tackles, 20 pass deflections, 6 interceptions, and 1 forced fumble. As we saw in Marcus Peters' rookie season, this guy is an absolute playmaker on the defensive side of the ball. He'll jump the route, and he'll take it for 6. He had 20 pass deflections. He was all over the ball. He was for sure developing into a lockdown corner. One of the biggest flaws of Marcus Peters' rookie season was that he was too much of a soft zone corner that first didn't play a lot of man, and second really wasn't a lockdown guy, but more of a playmaker and could, more of a guy that could intercept the ball, but not necessarily take away a top receiver. Marcus Peters, in his second season, took a huge jump in ability and not only being able to intercept the ball as he did this season with 6, but also being able to lock down opposing number 1 receivers for the most part. I think Marcus Peters is a very talented guy that I think actually maybe doesn't benefit from the scheme he plays in. I think if Marcus Peters played in a more aggressive scheme, we would even rank Marcus Peters a little bit higher because he has the capability to be that press man corner all day long, but Kansas City instead, their scheme doesn't really allow Marcus Peters to fully showcase that ability. Instead, he just racks up those interceptions, racks up those pass deflections, and again has another solid season. It doesn't really matter what Peters does. He's only getting better. Going into his 3rd season, he's got all the tools to become a great corner, and a corner that's going to be in the Pro Bowl for season after season after season. He's already done it a couple times. I think he'll do it again next season. And Peters, look out for him to maybe be considered the best corner in the league when it's all said and done next year. So Marcus Peters is at number 56. At number 55, I have Russell Wilson, the quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks. Wilson did have a little bit of a down year, but I still loved what I saw from Russell Wilson's game when he was healthy. Now, Russell Wilson does have a lack of an offensive line, which, of course, for an offense and for a quarterback specifically, absolutely sucks, and it impacts your statistics. Now, Wilson did still throw for over 4,000 yards. He had 21 touchdowns, but his interception number did go up. His touchdown number did go down, and Russell Wilson didn't have as good of a season as he did last year, which were probably his best statistical year of his entire career. But Russell Wilson this year with the distractions of the whole wifey out of the way, the new kid born and all that stuff, and also maybe an improvement along the offensive line and in the run game for the Seahawks, we should expect a better Russell Wilson in 2017. Now, that's not to say that Russell Wilson was terrible. He still carried this offense to the playoffs. They got to the second round in the playoffs. They beat the Lions in the wild card round. They did lose to Atlanta, and it wasn't the prettiest sight, but Russell Wilson just creates so many plays with his raw ability. His ability to run, his ability to escape the pocket, his ability to throw on the run, his ability to throw the deep ball. There is a lot of special parts to Russell Wilson's game that you just can't keep off the top 100. I have him here at number 55 as one of the more talented quarterbacks in the league, ranking as quarterback number 7 in the NFL. At number 54, I have Fletcher Cox, D lineman number 8 on my top 100. He played 16 games, had 43 tackles, 6.5 sacks, and 1 forced fumble in 2016. Fletcher Cox is an absolute animal, beast, and just destroys offensive lines on a weekly basis. Of course, 6.5 sacks for basically a defensive tackle. Very impressive. The guy can play multiple schemes, as he's already shown in his young career, and this is a guy that I would just not want to get in a fight with. He looks like a savage out there on the football field, and when he hits a quarterback, he makes him pay. Fletcher Cox is one of the ugliest styles of player there is in the current day NFL. This is a player that could play back in the 60s, the 70s, or he could play right now in the 2010s. Fletcher Cox is an all-around very solid player. He fits the mold of a Philadelphia Eagle, and he's going to continue to have another good season next year. He played another 16 games this year with 43 tackles, 6.5 sacks. The guy is very solid, and he's an absolute animal on a defense that I think going into the season is pretty underrated. At number 54, I have Fletcher Cox. At number 53, I have KJ Wright, linebacker for the Seattle Seahawks. That's already 3 on this list, episode number 3 of the top 100. But KJ Wright is probably the most underappreciated Seahawks player that there is, and there probably has been for a long time, because KJ Wright doesn't get enough recognition for how good of an all-around linebacker this guy is. Not only do you have Thomas, Sherman, Chancellor, Bennett, Averill, but he's the second best linebacker on his team, and he's still a top 5 linebacker in the entire NFL. KJ Wright played 16 games, had 126 tackles, 4 sacks, and 1 forced fumble. That's what I call an all-around game for a linebacker. He can rush the passer in the 4-3 set. He can tackle very well, and he's also one of the better zone covering linebackers in the entire league. KJ Wright is a very intelligent player that is fun to watch on the Seahawks defense. He fits that scheme perfectly, and the guy has all the numbers to let you know that he is a top 5 linebacker in the NFL. KJ Wright climbs the list this year at number 53 on the top 100. At number 52, I have another guy that's very, very underrated and not really recognized by the wide spread of the NFL and their fans. But Cameron Jordan is an absolutely explosive pass rusher and an all-around excellent edge player. I rank him as the 7th best edge player in the NFL. Pro Football Focus has him in the top 10 edge players of the past season, and I think this guy is just entering the prime of his career. The most impressive part of Cameron Jordan's game is not only the fact that he can get after the passer and have 7.5 sacks and a number of pressures, ranking amongst the top players for that statistic, but also he's probably one of the best defensive end players against the run. The New Orleans Saints really improved in that statistic this season, and in large part because of Cameron Jordan's leadership and play at that end position. Cameron Jordan is a fun player to watch at that defensive end position, can give you a number of nightmares for a tackle, not only in the pass, but in the run game as well, like I talked about. And he's an all-around very good player at the defensive end spot. I have Cameron Jordan at 52. At 51, I have Jordy Nelson. And Jordy Nelson is one of the players in the NFL in the top 3 for touchdowns in the past 4 seasons. And he also missed a season in there. So Jordy Nelson is a touchdown producer, as he led the NFL in touchdowns once again in 2016 with 14, 97 receptions, over 1,200 yards, 16 games played. Jordy Nelson fought through a little bit of injury toughness at the beginning of the year. He got through that. He came back for the Packers when they needed him the most, and he was a huge reason why they made it to the NFC Championship game. Without Jordy Nelson, Green Bay's defense, as we've seen, is half as explosive. I think it's time to let go of the Aaron Rodgers makes Jordy Nelson comments, because Jordy Nelson has had good season after good season after good season, sliding right under the radar of the great wide receivers in the game. He continues to produce, and he continues to be that go-to and number one receiver for the Green Bay offense. He'll do that again next year. Even if he's getting up there in age, he finds a way to get open. He's very savvy in his routes. He has great long speed, and he's one of the better deep threats in the NFL, despite being a white guy. I mean, that's pretty impressive. Jordy Nelson comes in at number 51. At number 50, I have Alex Mack, the offensive lineman 6 on my top 100. When looking at the Atlanta Falcons offseason, and one of the reasons why they did make it so far in the playoffs and ultimately fell short in the Super Bowl, was because their offensive line was shored up in the offseason with the signing of Alex Mack, in my opinion, the second best center in the NFL. Alex Mack had an excellent all-around season in pass and run blocking for the Atlanta Falcons. He was one of the big reasons why not only their pass game and Matt Ryan had his best season ever, winning the MVP, but also Freeman and Coleman went off in the run game. A lot of that has to do with Alex Mack taking care of the protections for Matt Ryan and also opening up holes down the middle for those running backs. Alex Mack is a great leader. I'm very happy to see him move away from the Browns to a team that can contend, and he got an actual spotlight that he deserves last season as one of the better offensive linemen in the league. So Alex Mack comes in at number 50 for me on the top 100. At number 49, I have the second highest Carolina Panther on the top 100. That is Kawann Short, defensive lineman, number 7 on my top 100. Very much like Fletcher Cox, Kawann Short is an all-around defensive tackle, and that's what I love to see at this position. He's great in the run game, and the Panthers have never really had an issue when he's been the starter in that run game. He was a huge reason for their run last year to the Super Bowl, becoming one of their better defensive players, and now I think he's right underneath Luke Kuechly as their second best defensive player. Kawann Short was probably their best pass rusher last year. He had 6 sacks, and that came from the interior. He constantly pushes the pocket. He's a savage inside. He's got good explosiveness and, moves off the ball. He created 1 forced fumble and had 55 tackles in the run game as well. Kawann Short should have another successful season with the Panthers, which I expect for their defense to be a little bit of a rebound. Expect some of those numbers for Short to go up a little bit, and also have another very good year after getting paid with his contract. Short comes in at number 49. At number 48, I have Devin McCourty, my boy from the New England Patriots, coming in as safety number 4 on the top 100. Devin McCourty is one of the most underappreciated DBs in the entire NFL because he's not very flashy, but he does everything well. He's very good in the run game at tackling. He's always responsible to be the last guy back in the secondary and somehow still gets 83 tackles. He had an interception this year, but he doesn't get enough credit for how much of a playmaker he is. And the one thing that Devin McCourty does better than probably anybody in the entire NFL is he takes away the long pass play. Devin McCourty never gives up long pass plays. And that is why he is the number 4 safety in the NFL. He had 7 pass deflections, created 1 fumble, and was an all-around fantastic leader for the Patriots defense. A lot of people always talk about how Tom Brady is the leader of the Patriots, but they don't bring up who the leader of the defense is. And for the past 2 seasons, maybe even 3 seasons, Devin McCourty has stepped up to be that vocal leader for one of the underrated secondaries in the NFL last season, and also one of the better defenses. They finished number 1 in scoring for a reason, Devin McCourty being the leader of that defense, and also being that last guy back to not give up any long pass plays, where the Patriots ranked in the top 3 in that category. Devin McCourty is the man for my Patriots, coming in at number 48. At number 47, I have Joe Thomas, offensive lineman number 5 on my top 100. Joe Thomas has been considered the best left tackle in the NFL season after season after season after season, and is probably going to one day end up in Canton in the Hall of Fame. But this past season, he did have a little bit of a step back, and a lot of that had to do with injuries. So I did, throw him a little bit back on the list this year. I wouldn't expect him to really take many steps back next year. I think he'll be around the same player. He is getting a little bit older in age, but of course, he's already considered one of the better left tackles, at least of this generation, maybe of all time even. It's sad to see that he has to play on the Cleveland Browns, a team that never really wins any games, but he has been a constant force on that offensive line. Nobody can really ever get past him. He rarely gives up any sacks or pressures for his quarterback, and he's been a consistent presence and their best player on the Cleveland Browns for years now. Joe Thomas comes in at number 47 as still one of the better offensive linemen in the league and still one of the premier left tackles in the NFL. At number 56, I have Vic Beasley, edge player number 6 on the top 100. Now, this might be a little bit shocking to fans of Vic Beasley because he did, of course, lead the NFL in sacks with 15.5. But Vic Beasley, if you look back at his games and the games that he did play, he played all of them. He had games where he went off. Like the Denver Broncos game, he had 3 or 4 sacks in that one. Numerous other games, he had multiple sacks. But on occasion, you would see Vic Beasley completely disappear and have 0 impact on a football game. And one of those football games where he had 0 impact was in the Super Bowl. In the Super Bowl, Vic Beasley's name was maybe called once or twice. You never really heard an impact from him. And for me, I have to put him at least at number 6 because he did lead the league in sacks. He did have 6 forced fumbles. He did have 39 tackles. But Vic Beasley, when it mattered most in the playoffs, rarely shined. And that is a concern for a guy that I think maybe could be a one-year wonder. He may prove me wrong, but I think Vic Beasley, this is probably going to be the only year where he leads the league in sacks. J.J. Watt was injured. Von Miller and Khalil Mack were very close, and I think those guys will be the lead leaguers in sacks, moving forward. But Vic Beasley is still a very solid player. He's a great finesse move defensive lineman. He's quick off the line. He's very hard to stop because he's a weird body type. He's very fast, and it's hard for an offensive tackle to block him, but he's also big enough where he won't get manhandled. So that's why he was such a hard player to deal with. But when you disappear in the pass rushing game, where that is your number one biggest thing, you're the leading sack leader in the entire NFL, and you disappear on the grandest stage of them all, and you're not very good against the run, that makes me question your ability, and that's why I have you at edge 6. But Vic Beasley's still an awesome player. I'd still love to have him on my team as one of the premier pass rushers in the league. At number 45, Ndomkung Suh comes in as a defensive lineman 6. He played 16 games last year, had 72 tackles. That's very, very, very impressive for a nose tackle, defensive tackle, and 5 sacks. Suh, again, had an all-around great year, really taking that Miami defense to the next level during the regular season. Again, he had 5 sacks, he had 72 tackles, and those 72 tackles, I mean, we look at the comparisons for a guy like Vic Beasley only had 39. Quan Short had 55. Cameron Jordan had 58. Fletcher Cox had 43. Jarrell McCoy had 34. Ndomkung Suh, as a defensive tackle, had 72 tackles. He's all over the place when it comes to the run game. He is a guy and a defensive player that is very rare, but he takes over games occasionally. He can still do that. He might not be as good as the days with the Detroit Lions, where he was probably a top 3 defensive player in the entire league, but Suh still dominates opponents, guards, centers, and can get after quarterbacks. He is a ferocious player that nobody wants to play against. He's probably the most feared defensive player in the entire league because of how much of a savage this guy is. But Suh is still an all-around great player that really hasn't got enough recognition because of all the stupid things he's done, but he's still super talented at number 45. At number 44, I have Donta Hightower of the New England Patriots, ranking in as middle linebacker number 4 on the top 100, or linebacker number 4. He played 13 games in the regular season last year, having 65 tackles, 2.5 sacks, and 1 forced fumble. He is, again, another really underrated player. Donta Hightower doesn't get enough credit because he's on the Patriots. That's pretty much it. I mean, if Hightower was on a team like the Ravens or a team like the Broncos, he would probably get a lot more recognition. But because the Patriots play the style of defense they do, because the Patriots are ruled by their offense and Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, the defensive players rarely get a lot of credit. But Donta Hightower is also a guy not with a huge personality. But he, like McCourty, are the leaders of the New England defense. He is one of the more versatile middle linebackers in the entire league. And I would argue that he might even be the most versatile linebacker in the NFL. I mean, this guy can pass rush like an outside linebacker. This guy can play defensive end. This guy can play middle linebacker. This guy can stay on all 3 downs. This guy can cover a running back. This guy can cover a tight end. This guy can blitz. There is nothing that Donta Hightower's middle linebacker game that you ask him to do that he can't do. He can call the plays for a defense. He can do all those things I already explained. He can rack up 65 tackles, 2.5 sacks, and a forced fumble. And oh yeah, he can make arguably the biggest play in the Super Bowl with that strip sack on Matt Ryan to help them come back for that Super Bowl victory. Not to mention that he did that in 2016 Super Bowl, but he also made the most unsung play in Super Bowl 49 by taking down Marshawn Lynch with one arm and bench pressing their left tackle with one arm. Donta Hightower is extremely strong, a rare linebacker that you see nowadays at over 250 pounds playing the middle linebacker position. The guy hits hard, plays hard, and is a great leader for the Patriots at 44. At number 43, I have the best inside defensive tackle pass rusher in the entire league. That is Geno Atkins. Atkins is D lineman number 5 on the top 100. Again, leading defensive tackles in sacks with 9. Now, the Bengals had a down year. They had a year where not a lot of players played great. But Geno Atkins had another very good year, specifically in that pass rushing game. He had 39 tackles and those 9 sacks, playing in 16 games all season long. Atkins was a beast. He was getting after the quarterback. He was dominating games. And Atkins is an explosive pass rusher that is very rare to see in the NFL from the interior. Atkins, very good player. In my opinion, the second best player for the Cincinnati Bengals, and comes in at number 43. At number 42, I have Patrick Peterson, cornerback number 4 on the top 100. Patrick Peterson actually got a little bit of hate from Pro Football Focus this year, but he had 16 games where he played through injury. He played through a lot of obstacles, and he played on a team that really didn't meet expectations this year. But Patrick Peterson is such an explosive playmaker. He is such a good corner that it's hard to leave him out of the top 50 players in the NFL. I have him as the cornerback number 4, making 51 tackles, having 3 picks and 6 pass deflections. Patrick Peterson not only shuts down the number 1 receiver and consistently, game after game after game, goes after the number 1 receiver every single time, but also he returns punts, he returns kicks, and he is a playmaker like no other in the NFL. Patrick Peterson, you have to give him the respect that is due. Absolutely athletically a freak and a great smart corner. Patrick Peterson comes in at number 42. At number 41, and the last player on this top 100 episode, number 3, is Andrew Luck, the quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. Quarterback number 6 on my top 100. He played 15 games last year in the regular season, having over 4,200 yards, 31 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions. This was a big time bounce back performance for Andrew Luck and the Indianapolis Colts offense. As we remember last year, Luck was injured a lot. Everyone expected the Colts to do really well. They kind of fell off the face of the earth. Their defense is really lackluster. Their offensive line can't block nobody. They have really no run game, but somehow they win some games and almost make the playoffs, and that is due to Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck is a one-man show for the Colts. He makes all the plays. He escapes sacks. He is one of the strongest, if not the strongest quarterback in the entire league. It's him and Cam Newton. These guys don't get sacked, and when they do, Luck bounces right back up and tells you, nice sack, bro. Like, this guy is a very nice guy off the field, and he's also a nice guy on the field. Andrew Luck, great passer, great arm. He maybe gets himself into a couple of bad situations here and there because he trusts his arm and athletic ability too much. But then you'll see the guy run for a first down, run for a touchdown, create an amazing play throwing the football on the run, escaping a sack. Andrew Luck has all the ability to be the MVP this season in the NFL. That's why I have him as the quarterback number 6 and number 41 on the top 100. And the best player, maybe the best player for the Indianapolis Colts. So, that is the top 100 players, episode number 3 for the Bottom Line View, voted on by myself, researched by myself. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you want more top 100 on the Bottom Line View and you're new. And guys, please comment below your thoughts on this episode number 3. And again, if you haven't seen episode 2 and 1, what are you waiting for? It's been on the channel. Go see it. Thank you guys for watching. Peace out.